There are few skills that are as universally useful as typing. However, people's typing skills have not risen proportionally to the utility of the keyboard, and many people still waste time and focus on the action of typing instead of what they're saying. These issues can be solved by applying proper technique and mindset. So I'm making this video to get you started and show you what's possible, since that's also beneficial. My name is Caleb. I've been typing as a hobby for many years and have reached over 150 words per minute with 2 keyboard layouts on Monkey Type, and average over 100 words per minute on TypeRacer. My channel is mostly dedicated to music, but I've always wanted to make a typing video, so I'm doing it now. A term you're certain to come across when discussing how to type is muscle memory, although the name is a bit misleading, because muscle memory is stored in the brain, not muscles. But what is muscle memory? It is the storage of memories related to muscular movement, which allows you to execute complex motions like walking without thinking about every movement your legs and feet have to make. When you type with just 2 fingers and 2 eyes on the keyboard, you are technically building muscle memory, but this muscle memory won't help you type fast. Moving your entire wrist to press individual keys is highly imprecise, which means that you need constant input from your eyes to direct the movements. On the contrary, when you switch to proper technique, you hardly have to move your wrist and can rely on the increased agility of the fingers and the short distances they have to travel. From a purely technical perspective, this approach is superior. However, people often avoid typing with multiple fingers because you can't see the inscriptions on the keys. While this may seem like a drawback to proper technique, it actually stops you from going down a dead end. The eyes are the strongest sensory input by a large margin, but they are not the best input for typing, because the eye and brain are not adapted for the point of focus to be constantly jumping around, which is exactly what you'll be doing if you're constantly searching for where the next key is. Once you build the muscle memory, you'll be able to type fully by feel. Your eyes can watch the text as you enter it, and your brain will become less bogged down. My point in explaining this is to show that the benefits of learning to type with 10 fingers make the learning process worth it. I will now explain how to go about this learning process, and honestly, simply starting is the hardest part. The first step is encoding the location of all the letter keys, not necessarily by memory, but by feel. If you've never typed before, a reliable option is going through a standard learn-to-type program like Typing Club or typing.com. I used Typing Club, and while it will sometimes give you additional hoops to jump through, it provides a good foundation. If you are already somewhat comfortable with the keyboard, but maybe don't use all the fingers, Keyboard could be a good alternative, since it uses algorithms to focus on your weaknesses so you use less time. But this is slightly more overwhelming at first, and I don't have a ton of personal experience to draw from, just thought I'd mention it. Your main goal at this point is to be able to find each letter key, even if it takes a moment of thought, without looking at the keyboard whatsoever. You can continue through these programs if you'd like, but at this point, you can start trying out some typing websites as opposed to learn-to-type websites. Currently, the 2 best typing websites are TypeRacer and Monkey Type. TypeRacer is a semi-gamified representation of real-world typing, where you can race people of similar skill, and you must fix all your mistakes. Monkey Type is the holy grail of typing websites. It's got everything from the random word 60-second test to quotes over 1,000 words long, as well as many other controls that explain why it has become the most popular typing website. Once you can start properly using these websites, practicing typing becomes much more rewarding. While using these new websites, focus on pushing your speed a bit more while maintaining an acceptable accuracy. 95 to 97% is a good benchmark here, but also make sure to do some runs where you focus almost entirely on accuracy. It is at this point you learn arguably the greatest tenet in typing word by word instead of letter by letter. The brain is designed to combine repeated movements into single actions, with a prominent example from early life being learning to walk. When a baby first begins to walk, it requires a great deal of focus to simply maintain balance, but as the baby keeps trying, the connection between the sensation of being off balance and the associated motions to correct it becomes so strong that it happens automatically, allowing the baby to stay balanced. This ability of the brain is why walking requires no thought. There are a lot of moving parts when walking, and if you had to think about each muscle movement, walking would be mentally exhausting and imprecise. But muscle memory condenses multiple movements into single actions. This principle is what makes fast typing possible. Through repetition, you go from typing individual letters to typing chunks of letters or entire words, like how a baby goes from consciously moving each individual leg muscle to effortless steps. To apply this, take a small word, such as and, the, but, or cat, and type it out multiple times, focusing on typing the entire chunk as a unit. Once you're comfortable applying this mindset of typing in larger chunks, apply it to all of your typing practice. Once you can type in short bursts, the main thing left is to shorten the gaps between bursts until you have a consistent flow. If you can achieve this, your typing is pretty much set. If you want to push speed beyond this point, the biggest change you'll need to make is to start reading ahead. If the word you're typing catches up to the word you're reading, you're not reading far enough ahead. It's also useful to experiment with how loudly you're typing, as it is more difficult to type fast and quietly, especially on certain keyboards. From a technique and ergonomics standpoint, make sure your wrists aren't perpendicular to the keyboard, because introducing a slight angle works better with the staggered keys, and it is more comfortable than trying to pull your elbows by your side to be straight. It's also important to know some common keyboard shortcuts. Option backspace on Mac or Control backspace on Windows deletes an entire word instead of individual letters. You should use this keyboard shortcut to fix most of your mistakes. Mac also has Command backspace to delete an entire line, which is also sometimes useful. Otherwise, knowing Control Command ZXCV for undo, cut, copy, and paste are essential as well. Most of you probably know these, but I figured I'd mention them anyways, in case someone doesn't. Otherwise, learn your arrow keys and their associated shortcuts for moving over entire words or entire lines, instead of spamming the arrow key or using your mouse. It never hurts to know more keyboard shortcuts. I'll briefly go over keyboard layouts. The standard QWERTY layout is what you'll find on 99% of English keyboards. Its origins are a little convoluted, but it basically came about from modifying the alphabetical layout until it was acceptable. But many layouts have been created to be better than the standard QWERTY, with the two main ones being Dvorak and Colmac, with Colmac usually considered better than Dvorak. Whether you should learn an alternate layout is a very personal question, but don't switch for the speed benefit, because it doesn't really exist, as these layouts are designed for comfort. Switch if it sounds interesting to you and you are drawn to the aspects of optimization and ergonomics. In any case, I suggest starting with QWERTY and considering adding another layout once you're comfortable with it. If you're curious, I personally use a modified version of Colmac as my second layout, and I really like it. And that's basically it. 10-finger typing is a supremely useful skill, and it will serve you forever once you learn it. If you want to dig deeper on this topic, some other videos worth watching are Everything You Need to Go from 0 to 200 Words Per Minute by No This Is John, You're Wrong About QWERTY by Atomic Frontier, and How I Went from 10 to 130 Words Per Minute in 3 months by Pink Goofy. Links in the description. Thanks for watching.